Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bookish Hour. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am J.C. Kenney. And Sarah, it's Thursday night, which means it's Baby Friday night. So the weekend is practically here. Next week here in the States, we got a short weekend because of the July 4th holiday. So a lot to celebrate. This is also our final show of the season, which is another celebration. But enough of me babbling. Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish.
Yes. Cheers to a wonderful season of being bookish together, JC. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you, hanging out with all of the amazing authors that we have had on our show this season, hanging out with our wonderful audience members who are always kind enough to join us live. We're very, very thrilled that you have chosen to spend your Thursday evenings with us. It really means a lot. And we have a fabulous show for you. We are going to our roots. We've got the wonderful Jann Franklin with us this evening, talking cozy mysteries, which is our bread and butter. So we're super excited. Jann, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here. This is going to be fun, I think.
I'm not going to say I can guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure that I can guarantee that you'll have some fun tonight. We've got our audience members chiming in, DHB, Mark, Sir Reads a Lot, Susan, Farmhouse Reader, and Alma, all wishing everyone hello, good evening. Alma is calling in from North Central Arkansas. That's exciting. Welcome. Oh, yeah. Glad to have everybody here. So thank you guys for joining us this evening. Folks, if you aren't familiar with Jann Franklin, she writes the Small Town Girl Mysteries, and we're really excited to chat about her writing journey and everything that, how this came to be. But for now, let's learn a little bit more about Jann. Jann, would you mind just sharing a little bit of your background and the names of the books that you write?
Okay. Well, that's a big shout out to Alma because I actually grew up in Arkansas too, Russellville. So very exciting. Went to school in Texas and ended up marrying someone who was born and raised in Louisiana and couldn't wait to come back. Got dragged kicking and screaming. And so that's a big theme in my books is transplants and learning to bloom where you're planted. And second chances and second things. Yeah. And Small Town Girl Mysteries is very much based on our adopted small town here, Grand Cane, Louisiana, population 241.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So, yep. And I love cozy mysteries. I've always loved reading them, and not a big romance fan, nothing against romance, but I always feel like you can predict what's going to happen. So I thought, I don't think I could write it, but I would love to write a mystery. I mean, really, how hard could that be, right? So
that was last words.
Exactly. So that was me going into it like, this can't be that bad. So yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Well, we're excited that you took the leap to begin writing and crafting a wonderful amateur sleuth for us that is presented in what's the coolest thing about, I think, the cozy mystery genre, or one of the coolest things about it, is that we meet kind of everyday people who feel the need to seek out justice and do good in the world. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing, Jann, just a little bit about your amateur sleuth and tell us how she becomes or how she kind of gets involved in solving mysteries in the first place.
Well, let's see. In the book, her name is Evangeline Delafosse, and she lives in New Orleans. Ran away from small town as fast as she could, married a police officer, got her PhD and was teaching at Tulane in New Orleans. Her husband was shot and killed in the line of duty, and her children grew up and they said, "Mom, you need to be near family, not us. We were going to go live our own lives. But you need to go, move back home to your dad and near your brother. So she reluctantly moves home to small town Graceville, Louisiana. And her brother is also a police detective with the sheriff's department, because Graceville's so small, they don't have a police department. They have the sheriff. And he has a case that is about to become a cold case. They think they know who did it, but they're not really sure. And he just says, "Hey, could you take a look? You were writing crime mystery or crime, mystery books about her fictional person was Lou Bergeron. He was a detective, and her husband would always help her, make sure they were accurate. He said, you've written crime and you were married to a police officer. Can you just take a look?" And she does, as a favor to her brother. And then she decides she kind of wants to get involved and try to see if she can figure it out. So that's what I got.
The fact, so there's so many things for us to unpack with this, which I absolutely love.
Right there, yeah.
I think the first thing that really kind of caught my attention as a reader is, Ev, that she's kind of recovering, or she's still dealing with the trauma of losing her husband. And I believe in book one, it's been like two or 3 years since he's
3
been
years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she gets all these questions about, is she going to write more? Is she going to write more stories in her detective series? And for her, she can't, because her husband was her character. And when that was introduced to the reader, it just was such a heartbreaking moment for me. And I just felt for her so much and understood the pain that she is still dealing with. And I think a lot of the times in cozy mysteries, we have, we have people that are looking for a fresh start, or they're looking to move to the next phase of their life. And the way that Ev is presented with this case from her brother, which I thought was a really sweet way of her brother looking out for her. I just thought it was a really special way to frame a sleuth getting involved, because she didn't necessarily have her best friend wasn't being accused of the crime, or she wasn't being accused of the crime. It was just something of hey, you need something to fill your time as you heal. Here's something for you to do. Because, she makes comments about I don't want to do decorating at the church, and I don't want to do the knitting circle. So it's this seems like it's up my alley. So could you tell us a little bit more about Ev and how, how everything in her life has kind of led to her being amateur sleuth material?
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's asked me that before.
Keep going, Sarah.
It's interesting, because and again, reading cozy mysteries, there's lots of different ways you can bring the sleuth into the first crime. How does someone go from not solving crime to solving crime? That's always a big, decision. And I wanted her to be reluctant at first, because she'd always stood on the sidelines. Her brother is a police officer. Her husband was a police officer. She was always just the cheering squad. She never actually did anything. And so she's nervous. She's very unsure of herself. She doesn't have that confidence. And I really liked that, because I think all of us kind of, play with the idea of maybe I'll solve a crime one day, but we'd think, oh, I could never do that. I don't know what to do. And so I put a lot of myself into her like that she just didn't have that bravado, that confidence. And as the series progresses, she gets her confidence. And I love that. I mean, I think the fun thing about writing a series is that you have such a opportunity to grow your characters, and you don't have to try to stuff it all into one book. You can let it just play out. And she just her sidekick, because you always have to have a sidekick. He's the one with the confidence. She is still still too much confidence. She's the one that's just struggling, and I think losing her spouse, that certainly didn't help. He was her cheering squad. You know, he was the one that told her, I know you can do this if this is something you want to do. And so without her husband, she's just feeling very lost and just unsure. So
Well, and along that line, talking about being kind of unsure, but folks who are sure of themselves, I just love the way you bring in Shorty Cormier, her sidekick, because I am a huge fan of the Rockford Files and Jim Rockford. And, so tell us a little bit, we meet Shorty early in book 1, but if you could tell us a little bit about him. And then since, we've got 4 books in the series, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a little bit of his kind of storyline through the books.
Well, I was listening to a writing class online, and it was all about bringing in characters that don't fit that everyday society norm. Inclusiveness, I think, was probably the word they used. And I thought, well, I mean, and that's good. That's all well and good. But what about people with disabilities? I know someone who works at the VA hospital, and I always think about that. And, I thought, why can't he have a prosthetic leg? So Shorty was, and he did not do, he and Ev were friends in high school. Their dads were best friends. He had, back then he had ADHD, but it wasn't diagnosed. All the teachers knew was that he could never pay attention. He did better in shop class than he did in math class. He graduated high school, went off to join the Army. I love that too, because so many of Cozy Mystery protagonists, they're very educated. And most all of them went to college or have some sort of advanced education. And I just thought, this will be great. I've got someone with a PhD. She's very book smart, introverted. I'm going to throw her with someone who barely graduated high school. He works with his hands. He thinks on his feet. And we'll just see what happens. And I think, and I hopefully y'all did too, that the results are pretty hilarious. I mean, they are constantly bickering, but not to the point of, being acrimonious. And then in the end, they always pull together, and they always just, fight for each other and support each other.
I thought, their relationship was really sweet to read. And, you have, at least in the first book, this, some gossip around the town of our Shorty and Ev having a romance. And so much so that Shorty's girlfriend, or someone that he's seeing at the time, rigs up a little trap for Ev on when she comes home. But this friend, Ev makes it very clear, like, hey, like, we're just friends. We've been friends for a really long time. I will even let you know if I hear him talking about other women. And she's like, oh, like, by the way, like, I did this. Like, don't go home and get somebody else to, make sure that everything's safe for you. And so he's kind of like this town heartthrob, which is just like another level to his personality, because he's so endearing. And like, when it comes to like quirky characters in a cozy mystery, like, I think Shorty is one of the most unique characters that I've come across. He was an absolute delight. But the thing that I love the most about his relationship with Ev is that they could be real with each other, but they could be joking and all of this stuff. But then they have these like little cues when, he actually calls her by her name and she knows, oh, he's being serious. Or I think he says, on my word as a gentleman and a scholar. And she knows that that's his promise because of just the history that they share together. And I just thought that they had such a special bond, and it was so wonderful how you wove him into her story because he has his PI license. And JC, you had made reference to the Rockford Files, how Shorty says, oh, I got my experience on the job by watching the Rockford Files. So he's like such a character, but because he's who he is, he just opens doors for Ev in her investigation with the locals. And I thought that was masterful in the way that you allowed her to insert herself into this crime, but in a way that wasn't that I believed could happen, because everybody's like, oh, it's Shorty. Let's tell him what we know, because of who he is in the town. And we've been dancing around what the crime is. Do you want Jann to just kind of illuminate our readers, and at least for book one, what the crime that Ev sets out to investigate is about?
Sure. So I think I'd read a cozy mystery at one time where they did a through the victim's eyes, and so the victim is murdered in the prologue, so to speak. And I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. So the first chapter, I guess, it's fairly short, is just how the victim dies and what they're thinking. And he's a really good guy. His name's Michael Cook. Works at the bank, and he comes home, and then someone comes in, they knock at the door, and he lets them in, and of course you don't know who it is, and they have a gun, and they kill him. And so it's just all, so it's all about, who killed Michael Cook? He's such a nice guy. He doesn't have any enemies, but then of course as it progresses, we do find out he does, not because he's a bad guy, but because sometimes people, they want what they want, and they don't want to, whoever stands in their way, then, they're going to get rid of them. So I will say, as the series has progressed, for some reason, I keep writing mean people, they get killed. I don't know if it's just that satisfaction, like, oh, he wasn't a great guy. He needs to die, but I don't know. I loved how Nate, Ev's brother, he really wanted to solve that mystery, that crime, because Michael was such a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted him to have justice, and I love that.
And I think,
I was just going to say, one of the things that I really thought was very interesting about that prologue or that opening chapter is not to get too far down the whole craft of writing kind of thing, but we as authors, we're told, hey, you really need to hook the reader early on. And I thought that really caught me. I was not prepared to have that scene unfold the way it did. I'm like, okay, what is going on here? And so then it's like, oh, wow, okay, this guy's dead. And, so I had to keep reading. And I just want to say, from my perspective, I just thought that was a really clever way to get us right into the story. And then, to have, again, to find out more, you had to keep reading. So good on you.
Thank you. Well, and I think the first book is always hard, the first of series, because you struggle with, how much do I talk about the characters? How many characters do I introduce? I've already got to bring in all these suspects and the victim, and now I'm introducing, and then I've got to, have the protagonist and the sidekick. It's like, wow, you don't want the reader to get too confused. So good. Thank you. I'm glad. You never know. You read it, y'all are writers, you read it and you think, okay, I think this is good. But then you're like, but do I really want other people to read it? Because maybe they're going to tell me I'm wrong. So that's good to hear.
Well, I think...
and then one of the other things, the way Michael in that opening chapter, and sorry folks, it's kind of spoiler alert, but it's the first chapter, right? He comes in, he's trying to literally tiptoe around the house because, he doesn't want to bother somebody. And then, it's like, there is so much that's going on that's packed into that you find out, well, that's his sister he doesn't want to be bothering, and the reasons maybe why he doesn't want to be bugging her. And so the whole thing was just like, like I said, you learn so much in that first opening without realizing it, that just catapults you right into the book that I was hooked.
And I think the Jann, what you had mentioned about how you've gotten to a point where you're writing people that aren't necessarily great people and killing them off. But Michael is, this hopeful young man that's like, maybe it's time for me to finally move to Alaska. And he's making dinner, he's thinking about, I wonder what Alaska's like this time of year. And then his life's taken from him. And I think that emotional reaction of seeing somebody with so much hope and promise, it is a way of bringing that reader into the story. And then how the facts of the case are presented, I thought was really, really creative, because you had mentioned the fact that worrying about too many characters once you have your suspects introduced. But, Ev is presented with a case file, and she just kind of goes through it, and she goes through it voicing her inner thoughts. And it's a really unique way to present the information so that it was cemented in my mind. But I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. So I think that style of delivery was really enticing. And was that something that like you knew from the get-go when you began writing this book, that that's how you were going to approach it? Or how did maybe the mystery unfold for you as the writer from what actually ended up making it to the page?
Well, I'm a pantser. I'll just tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I do with I figure out all the clues. And I know what chapters I'm going to have them in. I have a little template that says, okay, chapter 12, you are going to introduce these clues for these suspects. And so I just kind of made that up. And so, but that is the only structure I do. So in answer to your question, no, I had no idea. It just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way all my characters are. They just tell me what they're thinking and how they want to be presented, and it just happens. And actually, in the first book, I had in my head who the murderer was, but as I was writing it, I kept thinking, okay, well, this person's going to be the murderer, so I have to write so that person doesn't look suspicious. Well, in the process, they look very suspicious because they're the only one that doesn't have anything going on. So then I thought, okay, well, this is not working at all. So I had to just kind of switch things around. So in books 2, 3, and 4, I had no idea who the murderer was until I got to the second to last chapter. And then I decided, okay, I think it seems like this person should be it. Because I just agonized over Muffalata's a murder, because I was like, I think it, and I was so concerned people were going to figure out who the murderer was, because I just felt like I was writing it that way. So
I tip my hat to you. I can't do that. I need to know who the murderer is from the get-go. So again, good on you for that too. And I just want to say that viewer DHB chimed in. Nothing wrong with the bad guys getting schooled. So there you go. One of the things that I'd kind of like to shift gears just a little bit is, we've talked about, we've introduced Eva a little bit. You've talked about her relationship with her brother. Tell us a little bit, if you could, about Graceville itself.
Graceville is pretty much Grand Cane. It's funny when people they'll read the books and they'll say, there cannot be that many stores in a town of less than 300 people. And I said, well, come to Grand Cane and you will see that. And it is all about the mayor. So like I said, Graceville is Grand Cane. There's everybody knows everybody. And if they don't, they will get to know them. It's just, we have 2 churches and a post office. We do have a private school. It's not big enough to have a public school. And Graceville does have a public school, for whatever reason, but it just, yeah, I don't know. For me, it was easy to write because I'd think, okay, what? Well, I'll just drive downtown and look. And I would say, okay, 1, 2, 3, there's this many. And actually book 5 that's coming out next month is Sweet Tea and Suspects. And it's about our community theater. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people saying, there's no way a town of less than 300 people could have a community, but we do. We have a community theater. So my editor actually suggested it. She said, I think with your community theater, you should have a murder. She said, I think that would be hilarious. And I said, well, then let's do it. So we did. And so, yeah, it's just Graceville. Like I said, it's like, and actually, to brag on my adopted hometown, this week is our 125th anniversary, which apparently is like a sesquicentennial or something. Mm-hmm. People were asking me, was it named after Bigfoot or what? I'm like, no. But it's I'm trying to think. Like, we have a Mardi Gras parade, and everyone goes around the block twice because it's so short. We have a coffee shop. The coffee shop in Muffalata's a Murder is based on our coffee shop in Grand Cane.
Oh, wow. Lucky you. because I loved reading. And that's one thing that, another thing, I guess, that stands out for me for cozy mysteries are the places that you get to visit as the reader, and these really cute shops with, sometimes they've got like a punny name, or they are just like the center of the community. We have Maggie's coffee shop, which, Ev does a lot of her sleuthing at, where she just walks in and information comes to her. And so I will fully admit, Jann, that I was a person thinking, it's like, wow, like this town has a lot going on for having 300 people in it. But that's amazing to know that there are places like that, because I love a good cozy mystery town. And the fact that you just mentioned sweet tea and suspects, we have to talk about the food that you mention in these stories. First off, I need to know what cold oven pound cake, like, tell me like about the taste, like why is it called cold oven? I was just like, that scene alone, I was like, oh my gosh, the food that you're describing is just so mouthwatering.
I know. I always have to eat before I write, because otherwise I get so hungry talking about all the food. My mother-in-law, she made cold oven pound cake. And the reason it's called that is because you don't preheat the oven. I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but they say it's because it makes it a little bit faster. So if you're in a hurry, which I'm like, if you're in a hurry for a cake, you're not going to bake it. You're going to go buy it. But that is the story, is that, if you're in a hurry and you need to bake a cake, this one you don't have to preheat the oven. But it's amazing. It's just dense and sweet, and it's butter and vanilla and sugar, and if you like those three things, you will love the cold oven pound cake. It's so good.
That sounds absolutely delicious. And also kind of speaking of food, in a roundabout way, we are getting close to being 30 minutes into the show. We said time flies when we're having fun.
Yes.
But this evening we have some special fun, because we do have a wonderful giveaway that we have for our viewers who are joining us live. Jann, would you like to share with our audience members the giveaway that you have for them?
Great. I will do that. So I'm going to give away an autographed copy of the first book, Buffalotas and Murder, and then with it I'm going to include some swag, which, Sarah, you said you didn't know what swag was.
Well, I know what swag is in general, but I was like, it can be a lot of things, so I didn't want to assume what that meant.
I gotcha. Well, I don't want to say a lot, but I will just say that if you like to read, then you'll like the book, and you will like all the swag that goes with it, because it's very reader friendly. So.
Perfect. And we have an
I was going to say, and it all comes wrapped in crime scene tape. So,
ooh, that's a bonus.
Even better.
Nice. And we have another bonus giveaway item that JC, would you like to highlight?
We do. Well, in honor of this being the wrap up of the season, and the fact that Panic in the Panhandle, my Elmo Simpson book, #1, comes out in September, I am giving away either an EPUB or PDF copy of Panic in the Panhandle. So little bonus thing in celebration of finishing up the season on a high note. Jann, it's fabulous hanging out with you. Sarah, I love you to death. You know that. So, this is good. And enough of my babbling again.
So for our viewers who are joining us live, if you can type in, make sure that you're logged into your YouTube, your Google account, to type in our magic word. And the reason why, now you guys will see there's a method to my madness, that I said this was sort of food related, is that our magic word is ZAPS. ZAPPS. And Jann, would you like to say why it's our magic word?
Shorty, as we've discussed, is a very unique individual, and he's one of those frustrating people that can eat whatever he wants and doesn't gain weight. It's very annoying. And his favorites, and he always eats junk food. And his favorite food is Zapp's potato chips, which are made in Louisiana, and orange soda. In fact, my editor, she lives in Iowa, and they were traveling to Texas to visit family, and she called me and she said, "You are not going to believe this." And I said, "What?" She said, "Here, I'm sending you a photo." And she was standing at a gas station holding a bag of Zapp's voodoo chips. And she said, I thought you made these up for the story. And I said, no, they're real. She's like, well, I know that now. So for Christmas this year, Amazon, of course, carries Zapp's. So I sent her a variety pack of Zapp's potato chips. And she said, I love you so much. She said, I loved you before, but now I love you even more. So she said, we fell in love with Zapp's. We're going to keep ordering them. So
that's so funny. And we have Alma chiming in the chat saying that she loves Zapp's voodoo chips as well. So you've got another.
Fun. Yay.
So folks, make sure that you enter Zapp's into the chat. We've already got people. And if you spell it without if it's not double P, we'll still grab it on our end. No worries. So if you type it in too quickly and hit enter, no worries. I'll grab it. So while folks are entering in, Jann, let's talk a little bit about your, I guess, how you decided to, I'm going to write a book. Not only did you write a book, but you wrote 4 stories in kind of rapid or release, at least, because when we had first communicated with each other, I think you were just getting ready to release book 1. And as I was putting together our episode materials today, I was like, oh my God, she's got 4 books out already. So tell us a little bit about your kind of publishing journey and any tips or challenges or advice that you have for our viewers who may be looking to begin their own publishing journey.
Let's see. Well, I got an accounting degree when I graduated college because my parents said you need to get something practical. But I loved writing, and my husband always jokes. He says, "Yeah, Jann's very creative, but creative accounting will get you 6 to 10 in Angola State Prison." So she turned to writing instead to satisfy her creativity, and he's not wrong. I write a weekly newspaper article for the Mansfield Enterprise, which is our sister city next door. They're 4,000 people, so they're big enough to have a newspaper.
Nice.
And it's called From Bright Lights to Lightning Bugs, from the bright lights of the big city to lightning bugs in your backyard. And it's just about small town life. And it's lots of fun, and I love writing them. But I just got thinking that, what if? I'd hear a story in the coffee shop, and I'd think, well, but what if this had happened? For instance, we were having break-ins. People's cars were being broken into Grand Cane, which is unheard of because people still leave their doors unlocked. And so our mayor, bless her heart, she was all over the sheriff's department. She's like, you've got to fix this. This is not good. And every day she'd be hounding them. And so we were in the coffee shop, and one of the deputies came in. She said, what's going on? What's the status? He said, well, we've executed a search warrant. It's some people from Shreveport. They're driving a carload of people down and dropping them off in the neighborhoods, and they're breaking in.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a big crime. And I said, well, what are they stealing? What's in people's cars? Because I'm thinking I've got maybe some lifesavers and a few quarters. I don't know what anyone would want to steal. And he said, well, people are stealing phone chargers, and there was a laptop, and someone stole a teapot. And I was just like, this is hilarious. This has got to be, a book or something, or part of a story. And so we were talking about, after he left, we was like, well, it'd be funny if they set up a bait car, and put a teapot in there, to entice the people to break in. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if they did that, and then someone actually broke in and stole everything out of the bait car? And so I just had all these things in my mind, and I thought, it'd be fun to write a book. And I've actually written another trilogy, which is just small town life. It's called Small Town Girl. There's the first one's Trading Bright Lights Trading Bright Lights for Lightning Bugs, and the second one's Shining Stars in Mason Jars, and the third one is Cheese Grits and Hissy Fits. And that's a little trilogy. It's all on Amazon. But I sent the first one to the editor, or an editor I found, and she said, "There's no plot." And I said, but it's just about someone moving to a small town and adjusting. She's like, yeah, but there's no murder. There's no romance. I'm like, well, they're married. It's a different kind of romance, She said, no, this will never sell. There's no, So I thought, well, I'll just show her. I wrote the rest of the books, but then I thought, I don't know what else to do after that. I'll write a cozy. So they all take place in the same town. And actually, if you read trading bright lights for lightning bugs, you would hear how Maggie started her coffee shop and all that good stuff. But I decided to self-publish. I mean, I found an editor that got it. She's like, this is like Fanny Flag and Whistle Stop Cafe. It's just slice of life. But she loves the mystery. She loves Shorty. She said, I wish Shorty was real. I would love to meet him and have a cup of coffee and um, just just so much fun like that. So, and I've totally forgotten the question you asked me. I don't even think I answered it, did I?
I mean, you shared with us how you got into writing a mystery.
There
So
we go.
that's,
Okay.
I think that checks off that box.
Good. Okay.
My follow-up question then from there, you mentioned slice of life. Can you, for our viewers who may not be familiar with like that subgenre, or I love slice of life manga, so that's like my absolute like favorite thing to read. But can you share a little bit about like just what that entails and like and what drives the book from start to finish?
Well, the first book, her name is Jen Guidry, and she and her husband fell in love, got married. They live in Dallas. He's from Graceville, and they have kids. And he just comes home one day and says, I'm just tired of the big city life. I want my kids to be able to run around and play. I don't want to drive an hour to get to work every day. The Tractor Supply store, it's called Big Ed's Parts and More. He said, it's for sale in my hometown. I want to buy Big Ed's. I want to move to Graceville. And she's so relieved that everything's okay. When he came home, he's talking about how unhappy he is, and he, doesn't. And so she's worried he's going to leave her. And so she's so happy that he's not leaving. He wants everybody to go with him, that she just agrees. And then so they move, and she's like, where are the restaurants? Where are the stores? Where's the movie theater? This is crazy. And so she sets off trying to find friends. And, everyone's been raised there, born there. They never leave. If they do leave, they don't come back. So she just is struggling to find who, to bloom where she's planted. And so the first book is just about her making friends and figuring out, her place in the village, which was very much like me when we moved here. My husband was at home. I mean, they have a family farm. He goes out to farm, hangs out with the cows, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do all day? And so it's about that. At the end of the book, the village is bankrupt, and because their mayor just messed everything up. And so the second book, they got a new mayor, but now they got to raise money to put the village back in the black. And then at the end of that one, they have a whole apple basket turnover with the village leadership. So in the third one, they've got to elect all the new officials. And then I just kind of ended it because I felt like it was where it needed to be. But the heroine of those three, Jen Guidry, she actually is the one in Sweet Tea and Suspect. She's on trial for murder. Because my editor also said, I think it'd be fun if you brought Jen and Ev together. They live in the same town, but they don't talk to each other. Why not put them together? And I said, I think that's a fun idea. So
well, we've got folks chiming up in the chat about the fact that saying, and this is from DHB saying, sorry, your editor missed the mark regarding like nobody's gonna like care about a slice of life story. It says, ever hear of Seinfeld? So, and I'm thinking like,
Right.
Green Acres, they move from the big city into the rural farmland, and those stories are just so like heartwarming and fun. So I'm glad that you did what you felt was right and got those stories out in the world. We do have some other comments from Farmhouse Reader that Zap's Cajun craw taters are her husband's favorite chip.
Fine too.
You got a lot of Zaps fans this evening. And Mark chimes in with Go Accountants because that is his day job as well. So and Mark is also saying it sounds like they do have plots, but they're just not romance or mystery driven. So, your editor on those ones, I guess people are not necessarily agreeing with the feedback. So, we're glad that she's told the stories that you had to tell. Go ahead, JC.
I'm gonna interrupt here because we do have one mystery that is still out there, and inquiring minds want to know. I do because I've had the good fortune of going to New Orleans. Jann, what is a muffaletta for those who aren't familiar?
You can use French bread, but Louisianians frown on it. You're supposed to buy these special round, I don't know if y'all have ever been to Schlotzsky's and they have the round bread. It looks a lot like that. It's olive spread, which is, you can make your own or you can buy it at Jason's Deli. That's what we always do. And it's got salami, ham, I think that's bologna. I don't know. Pastrami, that's what it is. And it's all these different meats, and then the olive spread, and maybe some lettuce and tomato, and you put it all together. I will tell you, I'm not a huge fan. I don't dislike them, but that would not be something I would particularly order. But they're very much part of New Orleans and Louisiana culture. Mm-hmm. The big thing. And, M for muffaletta, M for murder. They just kind of fit together. So, and I think and then the book, Shorty wants $200 a day plus expenses, like Jim Rockford, to do his PI service. And she said, well, I can't afford to pay you. How about I make you some muffalettas instead? Because he's a bachelor. So he can cook. He chooses not to. He loves for women to cook for him. And he said, sure, I'll take the muffalettas. So
I just, the last time that I was in NOLA, it was po' boys, a hurricane, or a hand grenade, and a muffaletta. And I'm not an olive person, really. I like black olives, and that's about it. But there's something about like that combination smashed together that was really, really appealing to me. I really loved them. So it was fun to get these recipes woven into the story as we're reading, because I could make this if I wanted to. So
well, I always joke that Louisiana has 3 of the top 4 most violent crime cities in America per capita. Number 1 is New Orleans. Number 2 is Chicago. Number 3 is Shreveport. Number 4 is Baton Rouge. I think we're number 49 in education. But hey, we have great food. So we got that.
Beignets, sign me up all day long. Oh, I ate so many of them. We have Alma chiming in. Had a muffaletta at Johnny's Po' Boy in New Orleans and wasn't a fan. There's too much olive relish. I think that olive relish is you gotta have it just right in order for it to be palatable for me. But
agreed.
So tasty. Jann, what can so we've covered a lot of ground this evening. We've talked about Ed, we've talked about Shorty, we've talked about her brother, we've talked about the town. Are there any other notable characters or places that you would like to share with our audience members that may, if they were on the fence about coming to visit Graceville, that this will push them over?
Ooh, good question. Well, I will tell you, after I wrote the trilogy, and I said, I'm going to start writing cozies. My 85-year-old dad said, could you write a character about me and put it in your next book series? And I said, oh, sure. So Ev's father, Skeeter Bergeron, my dad, actually, his name is Herschel Delbert, which is why he goes by Skeeter, because he said, and then when we had our boys, that's the first thing he said was, do not name your children after me. I hate my name. I've always hated my name. So he goes by Skeeter. So Skeeter Bergeron is a retired veterinarian, just like my dad. And he fusses at, Ev, he worries about her. He fusses at her to eat better and take care of herself, which is what my dad does all the time. So he's very much like my father. And I will tell you, in the third one, Fruitcake and Fraud, he gets a little more involved. He actually gets to go to the coroner and drop off a potential murder weapon to be tested against the body. Yeah, and he's all excited. He's like, this is the best day of my life. I got to watch an autopsy. And she goes, really, Dad? Not your wedding day or the birth of your children? He's like, no, everybody gets married and has kids. Who cares about that? I got to go, you know. She's like, well, of course. So he even has a special tote bag that he, you know, it has, and he's going to carry the weapon down there and get it tested. And he's all over it. I'm like, that would so be my father, definitely. So
That's adorable, and I think that again speaks to like the magic of cozies, where there's just like so much love woven into these pages that readers can feel it, and the connection that you have with your adoptive hometown and how it's reflected in Graceville is just really special. And I'm really glad that I got to discover this series because it's lovely, and it's a wonderful treat for any cozy mystery lover. So
Yes, very much so. And unfortunately, I have to be kind of the bearer of bad news, folks. We've only got about 15 minutes left to hang out with Jann. And Jann, this has just been a blast. You know, one of the questions that I have, you've mentioned a little bit about book 5. So the adventures of Ev continue. Can you tell us a little bit about it? What's going to happen?
ooh, good question. So the star of the show, they're doing Death of a Salesman, and they brought in a special person to be in the show, and he's murdered. He's hung from the rafters of the community theater. Oh yeah, yeah. And so of course there's a whole slew of people. It could be the producer, who's also the investor, and it could be the director, it could be his wife, it could be the ingenue. And so, meanwhile, so you met Zydeco, Ev's dog, in book 1. Well, as you'll, you know, the series progresses, he actually gets featured on some dog treats that Shorty's cousin has been making. Well, this lawyer that takes it upon himself to negotiate a new contract for Ev, because the dog's not, Zydeco's not getting paid. He gets like free dog treats, but he's not getting money. And this company, come to find out, is making a lot of money with these gourmet, organic, you know, dog treats. And Zydeco's face is on the thing. So in book 5, Zydeco actually has his own driver and chauffeur.
oh, wow.
He goes to autograph sessions and has fan mail and they're, you know, is being read on YouTube. And so, and that's how she's able to quit her job, and they're living off Zydeco's royalties. Also in book 5, both of Ev and Shorty's cars are in the shop. And so Graceville has a taxi service, which is just this guy that's kind of schlepping around, taking, you know, he drives the little old ladies to the grocery store and doctor's appointments. So he is helping Ev and Shorty. And so he kind of starts getting a little involved, and he doesn't really do a lot of crime solving, but he asks a lot of questions and just provides some more comic relief. And that was a lot of fun. And I love Zydeco, you know, being the breadwinner. I think he's bringing home like 70 grand a year or something. It's
Ooh,
crazy.
nice.
So yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had pets like that?
I know. I'm thinking like my dog Evie, like she needs to get to work.
Right? Well, I did read Taylor Swift's cat is worth over $1 million. I mean, multi-million. Yeah. I guess she does. She's in, I don't know, like in some of the videos or something with Taylor. I don't know. But
I think there was like a commercial, either Verizon or Coke commercial, that I feel like I remember one of them being available in. So gotta love it. So it sounds like there's a lot more in store for readers as they visit Graceville and see what Ev and Shorty are up to. Folks, make sure as we're closing in on the last few minutes of our episode, if you haven't entered into the giveaway, type in the word ZAPS into the chat to make sure that you're entered. Jann, before we kind of do our wrap up, can you let folks know how they can connect with you, either online, you know, any events that you're having in the near future that folks can stay in touch with you?
Great question too. So I have a website, JannFranklin.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. You know, some people don't want to do that. I totally respect that. So you can also, I've got a Facebook page, Instagram page. You can always email me, Jann@JannFranklin.com. As far as live events, we have a bed and breakfast in Grand
Ooh.
Cane,
Nice.
and yeah, we've been talking about doing an author signing. So I think when Sweet Tea and Suspects comes out next month, she and I are going to put something together. I am going to be at the Louisiana Book Fair in New Orleans in
Ooh.
October. So that's going to be
Cool.
interesting. Never done that before, and it's supposed to be like thousands of people. Oh, the introvert in me is going, oh my gosh, that's a lot of people.
There's a lot of
So
people.
just definitely. So I think that's about it for now. I mean, you never know.
Fabulous. Grand Cane,
And
gotta put that on my cozy mystery places in real life, because I
yeah,
love a good cozy town in real life.
They are
and,
the epitome of cozy town, let me tell you.
and Jan, just to clarify, because you did mention to us a little bit earlier that you are independently published. I know your books are available on Amazon. Are they available other places or just there at Amazon?
That's a great question. They are on Barnes and Noble. Well, the ebooks are on Barnes and Noble and Apple, etc. All that. I have been fighting, I guess, for lack of a better word, with Drafted Digital to try to get they do not like my covers and they want me to change them. And I'm not going to go back and try to get a different, they don't like the size. They keep saying I don't know. They just don't like it. So we're having words, but if you don't do Amazon, I totally respect that. Email me, go on my website, just send me a message and say, hey, I'd love to get an autograph copy, and I'm happy to mail it and take payment, and we can do it that way.
And I will
Fabulous.
mention a little birdie told me, or maybe it was a little dog that makes $70,000 a year told me that book one of the series, Muffalettas and Murder, is available for all you Kindle readers for free right now. We're talking zero. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, folks. Y'all know what you need to do.
That was good, JC. Thank you.
That
I
was
need to hire
very
you as my
good.
publicist.
Hey, it's that rising tide lifts all boats thing there.
Perfect. Well, again, these hours always fly by. We've had such a fabulous time chatting with you, Jann. As we begin kind of winding down, we always like to kind of pick our guests' brains about, what are you reading? What do you enjoy outside of your own books when it comes to books, audiobooks, podcasts, movies, TV shows, what have you?
Well, I just came back from Crime Con in Nashville, and so I picked up a couple of podcasts I've been listening to, Murderish, and I love Socialite Crime Club, and they're fun. As far as books go, I don't know if y'all know Tosca Lee.
I'm familiar with the name.
This is her award-winning book that I've been reading. It's so crazy story. We went to Russellville, Arkansas to promote my book. I did something at the library and visit, friends from school and everything. And we went downtown and there was an independent bookstore, and we walked in and we were talking to them, and we saw they had an author signing, and it was Brenda Novak's, who's another New York Times award-winning author, and she was coming the next night. So we said, well, we'll go. And so we came, and there was Tosca Lee and Brenda Novak's and some independent author from a local. And Tosca just walked right up to us and said, I don't believe I've met you. My name is Tosca Lee. And I'm thinking, no kidding, lady. I know who you are. You're famous. I mean, she just was so sweet and kind. And so she, of course, they were selling their books. And I think Brenda's at the time was, I don't know, the Seaside Library. And then Tosca was doing the Long March Home. And so I finally am picking it up and reading it. I got behind in my other stuff. So I am reading that, and I actually let my dad read it first because he loves World War II and all that good stuff, and it's really good. She said it took her 13 years to write.
Oh, wow.
She has a friend who was doing a nonfiction book on the Bataan Death March, and he said, I think this would make a great historical fiction book. So they collaborated together, and she wrote hers and he wrote his, and they've both been winning tons of awards. So it's a good read.
Wow. Fabulous.
Yeah.
JC, what about you? What's on your docket?
So as far as viewing goes, for me, it's all about Acorn TV. Finished up season 2 of Harry Wild, so now I can get to season 3. We've got season 4 of My Life is Murder, which just started. So there's that. And we have later in July, season 2 of Signora Volpe. That's going to be dropping. So lots of wonderful stuff on Acorn. As far as what I'm reading, a lot of folks know that I love my historical mysteries. So I am currently reading Rotten to the Core. It is book 8, I believe, in the Lady Hardcastle mystery series. I just love Lady Hardcastle and Flo. Those books are so much fun. So that's the one I'm currently reading. So, Sarah, how about you?
JC, that was my book that
Really?
I was like, I have my list, and I was like, I listened to them on audiobook. So I just started. I love Lady Hardcastle so much. Yes. So another book that I can add to the list, I'm actually rereading Murder at the Bookstore by Sue Minix. It's from the Bookstore Mysteries. And I love Jen, her sleuth. She is a writer turned amateur sleuth, and it's like, that's my dream. So I'm revisiting that series, very much enjoying it. Podcasts, I finished listening to, I think I talked about this the last time, but I wanted to kind of follow up on Cold Blooded, which was about the Apollo gym murders in Miami, Florida. It ended. It was such an amazing production of kind of the crime, and the detective was solving it in real time, and we were getting information of like stuff on the news was being filtered into the podcast. It was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. I just started listening to a new one called Drowning Creek, about a missing persons case, and it's a season that's focused on one case. You guys know I don't tend to do that. I listen to one episode that's a case, but I'm getting into these season arcs that I find that you can dig deeper into the crime, and find them to be really, really fascinating. Viewing wise, watching Queen Charlotte, Bridgerton story, now that we've caught up on all of our Bridgerton viewing, and we are getting ready. July 1st, Netflix Lost is coming back. And George has never seen like seasons 4 through 6. So it's we're going to watch it. And I'm so excited because I loved Lost back when it was on. So it'll be fun to revisit that this summer.
Yeah, good times.
So we hopefully have given folks some new reads, new listens to add to your to be watched, to be read piles for the summer. Again, with this being our season finale, JC and I are going to be taking, I'm not going to say taking the summer off because we've got a lot of other stuff to catch up on. But we will be back with new shows this fall in September, both with A Bookish Moment and the Bookish Hour. So have no fear. And if you are a new viewer to us, we have seasons 1 through 3 on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. Should you need something to fill the void when we're not here.
Indeed.
So, yes. But we, again, appreciate all of our audience members who have joined with us these episodes, and cheered us on. Our winner for this evening's giveaway, if everybody give a little drum roll for our grand giveaway winner, is Alma Collins. Congratulations, Alma. Congratulations. So what you can do, Alma, is I'm going to put an email in the chat, giveaways@thebookishhour.com. If you could email that email address, we're going to need mailing address for Jan, and for JC, we'll need email and preference of a EPUB or PDF file for your e-reader. So make sure I'll be on the lookout for your email, Alma. Again, congratulations. We have folks chiming in. Farmhouse Reader Christina saying, congratulations on another season and have a great summer, everybody. Christina, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's very much what we wish for you. Jan, thank you for celebrating with us this evening. It was absolutely fabulous chatting with you about Ev and Graceville and all the fun that they get up to. So thank you for being here with us this evening.
This was great. Thanks, guys. And thanks for doing this. I love your show, and it's so much fun. And now to chat with you in person, that's even better. So
oh well,
thanks.
thank you. Well, we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything better than just chatting with folks about their books and all of the amazing things that we learn about the writing process along the way. It's really a joy. So we thank you for your time. To our audience, have a wonderful summer, everybody. Be safe, be well, and until next time, stay bookish. Bye, everyone.